spoke with Jonathan Schaffer of Rutgers, and I think he worked on a paper that touched on entanglement with Jinan Ishmael, and his belief that the cosmos is the one fundamental entity he thinks sort of can account for entanglement, how, at least on some level, how two things so far apart can interact with one another instantaneously. It's because they're not fundamentally two things. They're still one thing. They're part of the cosmos that is the one thing. And I might have not given the most charitable description of his view because it's not my view and I can't reconstruct it perfectly. But are you familiar at all with this argument? And I'm curious about how it...
Okay, so let me break down some things here. First point, as I've said, I think there just is non-locality because the experiments tell us there is. Second question, okay, but how do I implement that in the physics? I need the physics to give me, the right predictions, and I need some non-locality to do that. In quantum mechanics, there is a very tight connection between a system of particles, say separated particles, being able to predicting you'll can violate Bell's inequality, and whether the quantum state of that pair of particles is entangled or not, which is a perfectly well-defined thing. Sometimes it's entangled, sometimes it's not. It's called a product state. Product states, if they're in a product state, they can't violate the Bell inequalities, or you will not predict they'll violate the Bell inequalities. If they're in an entangled state, you can. So there is a very deep connection in that theory between non-locality and entanglement. Of course, maybe all of quantum mechanics is wrong. Maybe this whole talk about wave functions will be replaced by something else. Whatever it's replaced by will have some sort of non-locality in it, I claim, because it has to. Maybe it will have nothing to do with entanglement. Maybe the notion of entanglement won't even make sense in this new theory. So the connection is very tight within the bounds of quantum theory, but it's not that tight at a more general level. Now, one thing you want to say, and I said this before, ultimately you want to say, from an ontological point of view, there's a quantum state. The quantum mechanical wave function is describing something physical. And ultimately, there should really only be one of it, which is the one for the entire universe. And it's going to be massively entangled. If you try and describe it in terms of different systems, this thing will be massively entangled. And so the idea that there is this one fundamental, unified, global, universal thing is a natural way to go. Now, you then have the question, okay, that's true for the quantum state, but is there stuff other than the quantum state? Now we're back to the question, is it a monistic theory that only has one thing, or does it have, in a pilot wave theory, there's the quantum state, but then there are these particles or whatever that are being guided by they're different. They're not entangled. I mean, they are just separate. They just move around in space in a very classical, your classical picture of them is correct. So you can believe that fundamentally there is a universal quantum state that is metaphysically extremely important, ontologically extremely important, but say that doesn't exhaust all there is. So I'm not a monist in that sense. I think in addition, there are these local beables, and they're something different. I think that's actually the right way to go. And as I understand it, Jonathan really wants monism. He wants there to be only one fundamental thing. In the picture I have, there's more than one fundamental thing, right? One of those things has this kind of fundamentally global character, and that's the one associated with the wave function because of entanglement. And that's the one I will appeal to explain violations of Bell's inequality, the role that it's playing. But I'm not a monist in thinking like, I don't know, Spinoza, or, I think there's more than one fundamental ontological category.